range-bound. Bitcoin and the rest of the market shrug off the biggest liquidation event in crypto's history, but BTC seems stuck below 100K, flooding the zone. It's all happening in Washington, D.C. as regulatory bodies adjust to the new regime and Trump's Crypto Czar sets out the stall. Is crypto entering a golden age? Bears on the rampage. Retail sentiment goes from bad to worse as fears grow that Altseason may be cancelled. Have we been here before, or is this time different? And a look at last week's top performers, tweets of the week, dates for your diary, and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live.
GM, afternoon or evening. My name is Nick, of course, joining you live from Dubai. And hi, Guy, where are you joining us from?
Hi, Nick. Good to see you. Yes, I am in an undisclosed location, but you'll be happy to see it comes with robes. So I thought robes have become a bit of a thing.
The fans were speculating in the comments whether you were going to be wearing a robe, so you managed to source it very quickly.
I hate to disappoint our fans, you know that, Nick. Now, Mrs. Guy and I decided to just get away for a few days, get away from crypto for a few days. There's quite a funny story, which I'll tell you next week, about how that didn't quite turn out as planned.
Well, as we can see, here you are on a crypto live stream when you're supposed to be away relaxing, but you can take out of crypto, but you can't take crypto out of the DGen, right?
Absolutely, and that as well. So all will be revealed next week. But let's stick with this week. What's been going on? It's been an interesting one, hasn't it?
It has indeed. So we've got a lot to talk about, guys. Obviously, the Bitcoin price, what's going on with the regulatory changes in the US, and of course the never-ending question: will we see Altseason, or is Altseason dead? But I think, as we usually do, let's start off at the top of the stream with a look at what's going on with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price. So let's start exactly with last week. If we can cast our minds back to last week, Guy, when trade war was just starting, when news of trade war with Canada and Mexico, those infamous nemesis of US was started, and basically caused a massive sell-off in the crypto markets and all risk-on assets in general, right?
Yeah. No, this was crazy. Like, because the initial figure that we were given, we knew that there had been some big liquidations, but the initial figure we were given was around $2 billion worth. And Ben, the CEO of Bybit, weighed in on Twitter, sort of like, I hate to break it to you guys, but it is a lot worse than that. Obviously, these guys at the exchanges have access to all sorts of data.
Exactly.
It was.
So essentially, at these exchanges, there are limits in terms of like how many calls can be made to the APIs from these data tracking sites in terms of the total amount of liquidations. And obviously, it's limited in a particular period of time. And as a result, Ben came out and admitted, look, guys, the numbers you've seen were nowhere near how bad the liquidations were. Indeed, probably it's been undercounted for a number of years now. So exchanges definitely do need to update the regularity of their feeds in terms of liquidations. But anyways, that was a massive altcoin liquidation that happened on Monday. But of course, you can see from the charts here, later in the day, Trump came out and said, well, look, we're going to be extending the deadline for those sanctions, not sanctions, tariffs, where we're going to be delaying them for a month. So 1 month, you've got a delay. So we can breathe easy from the Canada, Mexico, USA trade war for 1 month. But of course, the question is going to have to come again at the end of February, right? So we'll see if that's going to impact in the markets. Surprisingly, though, last week, Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy, he did not buy.
Sorry, Nick. I've got to correct you there. Michael Saylor of Strategy.
Of course, Strategy. They've updated the name, they've updated the logo. There is only one strategy. There is no other strategy. So he did not buy this week. Although he did allude this week to potentially yesterday, his tweet with this Michael Saylor tracker. He did allude to potentially another green dot coming. So, if you guys obviously we're live now. So if he does indeed announce a buy that happened last week, guys, let us know in the comments and we can react to it live. But there could be a there could be a strategy buy coming this week or during the stream.
I'm looking at Twitter now, Nick. Sailor posted 17 minutes ago. MSTR has acquired 7,633 BTC for $742.4 million at an average buy of around $97,000, 255 per BTC. So they now hold 478,740 BTC. Congratulations to
Michael Saylor of Strategy. There we go, guys. So he's bought again, and it's another buy below 100K. So he's locking in those the on sale Bitcoin on sale below 100K. Other news last week, of course, we had the David Sachs, the AI and crypto czar. He held his press conference where a lot of policies were now, policies and clarity in terms of regulation and potential legislation. Classic markets in classical, in true form, bought the news, sold the event. So there was a lot of run up beforehand. And they bought on the announcement of the press conference coming and then sold and dumped immediately afterwards. We'll be talking about this in a bit, but it's mostly related to the wording around this strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then on Friday, we had unemployment numbers, and we talked about this last week. Now, it was a mixed bag. So because we had unemployment rate came in a bit lower than expected at 4% versus 4.1% expected. But the economy added less jobs than was expected. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. Market did rally initially, but then the crypto market rallied initially. But when the US equity markets opened, obviously it fell. So yeah, that's what happened last week. But now we have started a new week with new tariffs. And so this was announced last night. And of course, Trump new tariffs on steel and aluminium, depending on where you are in the world. And this morning, of course, tanked Bitcoin and crypto. We've got a nice little tweet here. Is Ethereum made of aluminum? Because it tanked immediately after that. And so it's true. And then, of course, China responds as well. So we've now got this tit-for-tat trade war going on that's causing a lot of fear in the markets. And the markets are indeed fearful. Check this out. This is the CMC Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Now, guy, note, this is the lowest level it's been since September of last year. And I will note there was a time when Bitcoin was trading at 59K, when there was no clarity around what was going on with US election. That was just after Germany had finished GTing their Bitcoin bags. So, wow.
The lights have gone here. It kind of says it all, really, don't it? But there we are. I've got a torch on my phone. I have a contingency plan. It's a nice sort of.
And you got a backup generator as well. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool.
Wow, never a dull moment. So fear and greed. So I mean, this was back where. So the last time the fear and greed index was like this was back before we knew that Trump was coming in. So we were potentially facing, another 4 years of a crypto hostile administration. So kind of all that Trump goodwill has now evaporated.
It's all important. Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, things that have happened subsequent to the inauguration, potentially, which we'll be talking about soon, obviously, in terms of altcoins, especially. But also, as it relates potentially on the positive side, like take a look at this funding rates on Bitcoin. Now, this is futures funding rates, and you can see that it's now the lowest funding rates since August as well, which is potentially a bullish sign in the sense that we've had the deleveraging, right? And there's not too much long exposure, demand for long exposure in the futures market, which means that if we are going to have a rally up, it's going to be, more sustained, less idiosyncratic, and driven by liquidation risk. So that's potentially looking bullish in the futures market. This is from me on Twitter. We also have looking at some on-chain stats to give you guys some hopium. This is the net transfer volume from or to exchanges. And on one day last week, we had the largest outflow from exchanges since August, which means, of course, people are wanting to, whales and crypto holders are wanting to hodl their Bitcoin. And And I mean, this is also something that whales are also accumulating in terms of wallet stats. You can see we've been in recent here. Pull up the chart for whales wallets. There we go. So whales have been accumulating, and the people who are not whales have been distributing. So the distribution or the accumulation of wealth by the whales continues. And I mean, this is something that we can see on Wall Street, right, Guy?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most discussed tweets that I've seen this week. And yeah, Matt Hogan, obviously of Bitwise, and yeah, I mean, I think this sums it up perfectly. You know, there is huge amounts of institutional interest. Wall Street want to get into Bitcoin. We're going to discuss some of the other products that are available to Wall Street and institutional investors a bit later on. So there's this hugely, really kind of positive sentiment around Bitcoin, but because retail is altcoin heavy, sentiment on that side of the market is just terrible, and we're going to obviously discuss that in a bit more detail later on as well. But yeah, really sums up very nicely, I think, the disconnect at the moment, between institutional and retail in terms of sentiment. Yep.
Indeed. And some more bullish news to quickly look at on the macro front is the breakdown in the dollar index. It's broken through this trend line that we've seen now. Obviously, a breakdown in the dollar strength is potentially good for risk on assets. And we are also seeing a breakdown in the 10-year yield, right? And this is also very important from the perspective of concerns around inflation and pricing in the economy. And obviously, this is something that could potentially be bullish for risk assets like Bitcoin. So that was obviously last week. Quickly taking a look at what could happen this week, because that's what you guys are most interested in. Obviously, we've got still on the macro front, tariffs potentially. There could be European tariffs, as we mentioned. There could be more retaliation. There's also the CPI print on Wednesday and the PPI on Thursday, which we will discuss. Macro events very important for Fed policy. Yeah. In terms of the charts, quickly pull up this chart over here. Just show you in terms of the Bitcoin on the two-hour time frame. It's in this descending wedge pattern, and it could potentially reach the resistance there at 98K, which is a key point to watch, especially from the point of liquidation levels as well in the futures markets. But if you guys do want to play-by-play of what's going on in the markets in terms of how to trade it and what's happening in the charts, of course, I will refer you to the Coin Bureau trading channel. We've got Dan, our head of research, Aaron, Moon and Papa, who is the Moon and Papa, Mariano from the Trading Parrot. And Mariano just released a video yesterday on what's happening in this week and what key levels to watch. And Aaron has got a video going out in, I believe, 2 hours or so on his trading strategy for making money in this market. So if you guys want to subscribe, we had 69, you can subscribe we had 69,420 subscribers. We want to get to 70,000 subscribers. The QR code's right on the top left of the screen, top right of the screen there. So you guys can hit that subscribe and go and join the guys over at Coin Bureau Trading.
Yeah, get them up to 70. Mind you, once they get, the more subscribers they get, them the more insufferable they become. Those Coin Bureau Trading lads. I mean, lovely guys, but getting very pleased with themselves these days.
The 100K level, it's like that's more so than the Bitcoin 100K. You can get Coin Bureau Trading above 100K, boom, get a plaque. There we go. Guys, should we do a quick sentiment check?
That's the metric. Yes, let's have a look at the sentiment. So I've been, as we've been discussing, I've been just sort of looking through some of the comments, seeing just what the mindset is in the comments. I'm kind of like, I enjoyed this one, honey. It's all gone again. Yep. There's a lot of.
Honey, I lost the games. We've also got. We pushed a poll earlier in the first time in the comments, and I think it was about whether we'll see an Altseason. It's something we can refer to a bit later, but 70% thinks we will. So that's cool.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Good to see people are still hopeful. There's quite a few people, or certainly there were at some point, getting a little pissed off with leverage traders. Obviously, leverage longs getting wiped out has helped sort of tank prices further. So a lot of people losing patience with our trading friends. Look, guys, I know it's annoying, but take comfort in the fact that they're losing extraordinary amounts of money, so they're probably not.
They're losing, and then it gives you the opportunity to buy, right, at discounted prices, right? Their loss is your gain, right? It's a zero-sum game, right? You guys pick it up. For every loser, there must be a winner, and then the exchanges win the most because they get all the fees. But whatever.
Absolutely.
Cool. Cool. So
we
guys,
also have Coin
yeah,
Biscuit in the chat as well. I haven't heard of these guys, but I'm sure they're
Coin.
the next big thing. So keep a lookout for Coin Biscuit.
Cool.
Okay, should we move on and talk about what's been going on in Washington? Because obviously it's not been great for prices, thanks to everything that we've been talking about. But over in Washington, D.C., we are seeing a heck of a lot of stuff going down. It's been a fantastically busy week from that point of view. Not only is the administration kind of breaking their silence a bit, we're going to talk about that David Sachs speech, but we're also seeing pretty significant shakeups at the regulatory agencies, the regulatory bodies that oversee crypto. So, we've got change afoot at places like the SEC, the CFTC. We've also got the Fed sort of talking more positively, perhaps, about crypto than it has for a very long time. So, yeah, it feels like there's a lot happening, and most of it sort of taking us in the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah. So going through some of the stuff that happened last week, as we mentioned and alluded to earlier, we had the speech from David Sachs. And basically, there was a lot of stuff that was covered there. He said the House and the Senate are going to collaborate to advance digital asset legislation, proposed an oversight bill between state agencies and federal regulators, and also potentially a revival of FIT 21 bill. Now, remember, Guy, this was the one that I think passed the House, the Financial Innovation Technology Act of 21, passed the House last year, and it was killed in the Senate on a threat from veto from Biden. So that's a lot of people are excited about. That's potentially something that could be revived. So there's a lot of, and he's also said that he will prioritize U.S. dominance in digital assets and calls for crypto a week one priority. Of course, many people were crypto people are sentiment is very fleeting, right? So essentially, they didn't hear. Apparently, the transition from the word Bitcoin strategic reserve, which was initially what was said when he was elected, Trump, it evolved to national digital asset stockpile, to now apparently assessing the feasibility of a reserve, which in government speak, assessing the feasibility of something is generally means, it's going to be filed somewhere else. Yeah. Hopefully not though, but that's why Bitcoin kind of sold off, because it was kind of soft in the wording. Having said that, there was positives, speaking about the stablecoin bill, the one that seems to be the most likely to pass. It's now being renamed the Genius Act, being sponsored by Senator Bill Hagerty. This is one that could potentially pass. It has the most chance to, because it's got bipartisan support. The stablecoin one did last year. So this is exciting, right?
Yeah. And if it kind of suits both parties, this in that it suits the crypto industry to get stablecoin regulations passed, because that, I think, is going to be able to unlock a whole load of potential and innovation. It's going to give much needed clarity around not just around stablecoins. I think that clarity will filter through to the wider industry. But obviously the killer is that it's kind of the current administration are very aware that stablecoins are a great way to further spread the dominance of the US dollar. And for all the stablecoins that are created and bought, that means, certainly US dollar denominated stablecoins, which I think is basically all of them. Every stablecoin that gets created, that's another dollar of US government debt being bought behind the scenes.
Exactly, a massive passive buyer of US government debt. Exactly.
Yeah. And Tether and Circle now between them buy more treasuries, more US treasuries than a fair few countries. I can't remember exactly where they were in the league table. They're quite a way behind. I
think it's
like
more.
Japan,
if I recall, it's more than Norway. I think if I recall, they hold more sovereign debt, US treasuries than Norway or something like that, or Germany, one of these. But it was one European country. So big news on the stablecoin front. Also, SEC updates. Now, I don't know if you caught this last week. A lot of people were gushing over this speech this statement by Hester Pierce, obviously, the commissioner who's now working on this digital asset framework at the SEC. Mm-hmm. And she put forward called "The Journey Begins." How inspirational is that? It was an ode to the crypto industry. And she said the SEC is carving out a new path for the digital asset sector, which includes evaluating the security status of certain assets, which is important, right? Because now we have certainty around what is a security, no longer Gary's guessing game. Is it a security or not? Bingo. So that's exciting. Potentially also retroactive relief, right, for potential people that have been sued by the SEC, right?
Yeah. Now this would be huge, because this you would imagine brings to an end the era of regulation by enforcement, and I think hopefully this will be able to kind of wipe the slate clean in a way and say, and let's face it, how many millions of US taxpayer dollars have been wasted on suing all these crypto companies already? And mostly in for no tangible result. The SEC's had so many losses in court. I think it makes perfect sense, I think, from every angle, just to draw a line under it.
100%. And then there's also one more thing, potentially approvals for new enforcement has to go through the commissioners. So it's no longer just going rogue as the litigators themselves. They have to actually take these potential new enforcement actions through the likes of Hester Pierce and Ueda and the new Atkins as he comes in. There was one other piece of news as well, which is interesting, Guy. I don't know if you saw this, but they also are reducing their 50-person crypto enforcement unit, reassigning some lawyers. And apparently, one of the crypto unit's top lawyers was moved from enforcement into the IT department.
Okay.
So you went from being a high-flying lawyer serving cases to crypto companies to basically answering questions on servers and shit.
Yeah. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Let's pick a number. What's the ticket number? Sorry, I'm trying to deal with that. But I've got a lot of people coming in.
Well, it'll probably be an easier life. He'll probably, it'll probably be an improvement for him. I think I've got to go. Just going back to what you were saying, Nick, about approvals for enforcement now have to go through the commissioners. That's kind of crazy that wasn't the case to start with, wasn't it? It's kind of giving enormous amount of free rein to presumably not all that high up people at the SEC to be like, yeah, you want to bring an enforcement action against a crypto company? Yeah, you go for it. Yeah, you do your thing.
Yeah.
It's like, surely that should come from the top. Like, surely the commissioner should be I find that really strange.
Exactly. Especially if Gary is the one who's getting pulled in front of Congress and being castigated by lawmakers. But there was also some updates from a few more regulatory agencies. Positive, of course. CFTC, the acting chair, also put out a statement saying she's going to stop regulation. They want to stop regulation by enforcement against, quote, good citizens. And we also had another federal agencies, the Fed, the Federal Reserve, and the OCC. And this is according to the New York Post. They will loosen the tough stance they've had on digital assets, but specifically as it relates to Choke Point 2.0 and banking services, and allow all big banks to as well service crypto clients, which is something they've always wanted to do, right?
Yeah. And again, this is one of those bullish bits of news that I think that a lot of people haven't sort of digested or given enough credit to recently. Operation Choke Point 2.0 has been a huge cloud hanging over the crypto industry, and now that is being unwound, that is going to, again, it's such a sort of long-term bullish thing for the whole industry, especially the industry in the United States. But that will ripple out beyond it. And again, I think a lot of people are sort of forgetting that, when they're sort of judging the state of the market. But that's great news, because that will make it easier for crypto companies to innovate and flourish in the US and just get banking. It's crazy that wasn't possible.
Most important thing for a company, just being able to pay employees as a crypto company, having a bank finally. Another thing that was another executive order, Guy, which is pretty interesting. Do you ever think you'd hear the stage at which the US government would institute or establish a sovereign wealth fund?
This one was definitely surprising for me. I mean, my first thought when I heard this, and I think the first thought of a number of people was, well, yeah, sovereign wealth fund. Should you not think about paying off the $36 trillion of national debt? Would that not be a better way to start than kind of, starting a sovereign wealth fund?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it could be a way to grow,
Yeah, I mean, to strategically grow, and especially in the acquiring shares and strategic assets, like there was talk. Apparently, Trump is thinking to use this to get shares in TikTok. That's something I never put on my bingo card. The US Sovereign Wealth Fund. It's basically like he'd potentially treat the Sovereign Wealth Fund like that. The SPAC, the Trump Digital Media, basically a blank check company to go and purchase all the world's assets from Canada to Greenland, wherever. But another positive news front on terms of like local level in the US as well, just quickly, there are at least 22 states, I think, that are thinking about Bitcoin reserves. So it's not just on the federal level.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people believe that actually when it comes to the idea of a strategic reserve, it'll probably begin at the state level rather than being a national thing. And actually, like US states have for a few years now been a lot more individually have been a lot more proactive than the US government. All throughout the Biden administration, states like Wyoming and Texas were sort of trying to kind of, adopt a much more crypto friendly, a much more crypto positive stance. So I'm not surprised that they're sort of embracing the idea of a stockpile. And what was interesting is that not obviously all those states are colored orange on the map as they should be, but there's a mixture of Republican and Democrat held states in that map. Yeah. So again, it's not necessarily a partisan thing. There are politicians, there are state governors on both, of both stripes who want this.
Yeah, it's a bipartisan issue, non-political. It should just be about preserving the wealth of your citizens, right? Cool. So now, of course, we're going to roll with the Wall of Shame and Fame. I was not expecting that. I almost wish we were going back to the Brokeback version. Come on. Oh, what? Isn't that from, what's that movie, guy? It's a British.
That's from Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. Great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, I'd rather be that guy than you, guy, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Coin Bureau production team. Just because I'm not there in the studio to let you know my displeasure. I'll be back. Don't you worry. It is time for the Walls of Shame and Fame. We're gonna.
So who's on the Wall of Shame today, guys? Guy, you want to tell us why we? There we go.
Yes, it is none other than Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports mogul, pizza connoisseur, and now also meme coin shiller. Yeah, he has had a busy weekend. So I was going back through his Twitter. So TLDR is that basically now we need to be really clear here. He didn't create any meme coins himself, but he certainly started shilling some. He suddenly fell down the meme coin degenerate rabbit hole and started just shilling these things all over Twitter, sort of saying, well, I'm going to be buying, I'm going to be selling or whatever sort of, but going as far as posting Phantom Wallet screenshots. And it was one of those kind of interventions from outside of crypto by, a famous person. It comes at a time when, crypto is not exactly having the best of weeks. And you're just like, thanks, Dave. Yeah, this is just what we needed. Dave Portnoy shilling meme coins. This is exactly.
The crypto Twitter was universally against this, and it was just crazy. It was a few meme coins as well. Stool Presidente, which I think, what was it? The jail stool, which was actually listed on Kraken. Crazy.
Kraken? What you like? Honestly, I saw that. I was just
yeah. Well, I mean, anyways,
it's such a busy weekend. Like it was Super Bowl. It was the Super Bowl yesterday, wasn't it? So, like, obviously, a big weekend. Like, I was going back through his Twitter feed. I don't know how he managed to watch any of the game. He was just so busy shilling meme coins and tweeting the whole time. Like, this guy is very online.
He's clearly having more fun. He's clearly having more fun with this. I mean, you make more money, in a meme coin to your audience than betting on sports. But anyways, we have someone else who we've always mentioned on the Wall of Fame, and this is.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. Nope. Oh,
ooh, that was some Portnoy themed artwork. Can we go back to that?
We can go back to that. That was Portnoy image from People. Yeah, very graphic, of course. SPF out there. And Hawk. Oh, Hawk in the corner. So Hawk tours there as well. That's another rabbit hole.
There's always so much detail.
That's another rabbit hole we can't go down right now. Wall of Fame, guys. We've got, as we mentioned before, Hester Pierce, the crypto mom. She gets a special shout out because of her, very thoughtful statement and ode to the crypto space. And she's the real one. She's the MVP. She's been there since day one.
Yeah. Yeah, she is a long-standing ally of the crypto industry. More power to her. So yeah, well done, Hester Pierce. Thumbs up for Hester. Thumbs down for Dave Portnoy. Not that he cares.
Thumbs down for altcoin season, mate. Which brings us, of course, to the next topic, which I'm sure many people are wondering what's going on here. And this has been the biggest discussion last week. And I know we talked about it last week as well. And it caused a bit of a discussion as well within our Coin Bureau Club Discord server as well. But I think it's all over the timeline. There's just terrible apathy about we're not going to see altcoin season. It's not coming, guys. It's just a Bitcoin rally. And so what kicked us off? Of course, last week it was kicked off by that massive deleveraging we had, right? It was the biggest, before we pull this chart up, guys, basically this was the biggest deleveraging since COVID, Luna, and FTX, right? In terms of total notional altcoin liquidations, was the biggest deleveraging ever. And I decided to go back and take a look at this as well, because these previous deleveraging events, and this is the what you've got here as the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, so i.e. altcoin market cap. And I went back to those previous periods where you've had these deleveraging events, COVID, Luna, and FTX. And at a minimum, it takes at least, historically, right, it took at least 77 days to recover those losses in terms of the altcoin market cap. So, it's one of these things where that's historically, and that's what I think potentially something to take into account if we are thinking about whether we'll see a altcoin season of any type. About at least more than 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out as well, though, like, as we said, this is the biggest deleveraging since FTX. Obviously, prices have taken a beating, but back in the FTX days, back in the Luna days, back in going further back to COVID, something like this people would have been talking about an extinction level event. People would have been going, "Is this it?" Because it certainly felt like at those times, maybe not Luna, but certainly like FTX. And now I think that people understand that the crypto market is a lot stronger than it was then. And this has been pretty ugly to see this kind of deleveraging. I want to take some positives from it, though, because I think the market dealt with this and kind of showed its maturity through this. So it's certainly not a complete positive, but I think there are positives to be taken from it. Yeah,
100%. But just quickly taking a look at another thing. I mean, the question now, not just about altcoin, the total market cap of the altcoin space, which is something that could recover, will recover, and could rally. The question comes down to, and this is something I'd like to come back to, it's altcoin market cap relative to Bitcoin, right? Or Bitcoin relative to the altcoin space, right? So or the total market cap, and that's Bitcoin dominance. So if you take a look at this chart as well, this is from Rect Capital on Twitter. And his theory, and as he posits here, is that we had an altcoin season already. It was a mini rally in terms of one of the criteria for altcoin season. It was a mini rally in the altcoin market cap, which is, of course, a fall in Bitcoin dominance, which happened from November to about, December. So a very small, short altcoin season that's now basically been trumped by Bitcoin going on an almighty rally, or Bitcoin dominance going on a rally as well. And he followed on from this. Potentially, we could see Bitcoin dominance going to like 71% before any sort of altcoin season can start to blossom. So that's on the charts on the Bitcoin dominance side. And Guy, I think that one of the discussions that's had right now, and it's something that I feel as well, is the reason why this particular altcoin season won't be as big as the last ones is because of the way the market structure has changed in the crypto space, because of ETFs and their unique impact on Bitcoin market cap. Because obviously Bitcoin, people accumulate Bitcoin ETF shares and ETF providers accumulate Bitcoin AUM, it leads to a growth in the price of Bitcoin and market cap relative to alts. And there was actually an interesting insightful report from Glassnode last week with two particular charts I wanted to point out. So the first one, this is the correlation between the Bitcoin major asset market caps, correlation of Bitcoin and the altcoin market caps. And it's got very close to strong correlation, so close to 1, so a strong correlation. And yet the market caps have diverged. And Glassnode concludes, quote, suggests that the driver of the divergence is not the rate of growth between the two, but instead a substantial divergence in capital entering Bitcoin relative to the altcoin sector. So translated, that's that the capital enter in the Bitcoin space is through large institutional investors through ETFs, right?
Yeah. It's being kind of, I guess you could say it's being sort of siloed, isn't it? The capital that's going into Bitcoin in previous cycles, that would all go into the sort of same, that would all end up in the same big pot of, crypto. Whereas now it's sort of been, a lot of it is being siloed off, and it's being, the ETFs are kind of almost a sort of separate market, aren't they? Not so easy to, not straightforward at all to rotate out of. And I think the investor profile of the sort of people and institutions that are buying those ETFs, because for them, well, for us, Bitcoin is a safe asset, isn't it? Bitcoin is our flight to safety. For most regular investors, and certainly for a lot of institutions, Bitcoin for them is like, whoa, this is really risky. They don't see it the same way that we in the crypto industry do. So I think that's important that's probably for a lot of people, just BTC, thank you very much, that's risky enough. The altcoin casino is not one that they want to drop into anytime soon.
Exactly, yeah. And it's also difficult to rotate because of the fact that these are ETF shares. One other point that from the Glassnode that I'll just raise is the decline in small wallet transfers compared to previous cycle tops, which obviously just shows that it's big-sized entities that are buying this. So this suggests that new demand for BTC has been dominated by larger-sized entities rather than small retail-sized entities. Mm-hmm. And this tweet is quite apropos. And this is from Jeff Park, the head of Alpha Strategies at Bitwise. And the case he's making here is, look, in the past, institutions and larger investors would use the altcoin space as a levered beta on Bitcoin. So essentially, you get more gains and volatility from alts than you would from just holding Bitcoin. However, given regulatory changes and also structured products and these things that are being released on Wall Street, large institutions can get Bitcoin leverage through other means, and they don't need to go down the risk curve on altcoins to get this leverage.
Yeah, and you were talking a few weeks ago on one of these very streams about the launch of those Bitcoin options products, weren't you? These are relatively new. So, yeah, I think at the time we were sort of talking about those being a positive for, certainly for Bitcoin and maybe for the overall crypto market, because that represents another sort of area in which capital can enter the market. But as you say, these are products for a specific type of investor. And this is, they're not, that's not going to find it. That money's not necessarily going to find its way into altcoins.
Exactly. But it's not all doom and gloom, guys, because there are other considerations, and it's always good to look at this from the perspective of a few other things. Because this is basically like a chart from Twitter, Luca on Twitter, and it's basically looking at this Bitcoin dominance thing as well. And what he's showing here is that you've got this deviation and capitulation on alts. That's basically people think you see in an altcoin season starting, and then you have a massive deviation and capitulation. And he's comparing it to the previous cycle, right, to 2021. And he's showing the chart in 2021. So you had the deviation and capitulation that went to 71%. And then what happened after that? You had a massive fall in Bitcoin dominance, which means a massive almighty altcoin rally that started after that capitulation. So at least from his analysis, we could potentially see it's a striking correlation. The fractal looks similar. And if it plays out, we could have an altcoin season sooner, although he thinks Bitcoin rally dominance could still rally. And then also, Guy, if you cast your mind back to the previous cycles, previous 2021 cycle, people have always been saying at peak, when altcoins are at the peak apathy, people are saying there will be no altcoin season. This is the BTC cycle. And always, it turns out, in the past, that was the sign that, when sentiment was the lowest, that's when things started to turn around.
Yeah. And it's something that, those of us like you and me, Nick, who've been in for a few cycles now, it's like, it's easy for us to forget, isn't it? And I guess people who maybe this is their first cycle or maybe their second cycle, we have such short-term memories so often when it comes to this sort of thing. It's like, yeah, this is it. Oh, this time is different. And it makes me wonder, Nick, are we going to be doing this show in 2029 and having this exact same conversation? Can we bring exactly this up?
Our same notes. We just need to change the date. That's it. It's exactly the same story.
I'll just be a bit grayer. And, I
think it's a situation as well. And another thing I wanted to point out, that the whole question, one of the biggest arguments for, oh, we're not going to see an altcoin season. This is another chart as well, which you guys can take a look at on the screen and come back to later. I won't go through it right now. We're short on time. But basically the argument that's been made, Guy, around, oh, we've got such a massive supply of altcoins, too many altcoins, and millions of altcoins. People aren't going to want to buy altcoins now because of all this. And an interesting counterpoint I've heard about that is, well, look at the stock market. There are thousands of penny stocks out there. You don't, because you have these penny stocks that are worth nothing, that no one trades, that people aren't going to go and bid Nvidia, that they aren't going to go and bid Facebook or Google or any number of assets in the S&P 500. So just because you've got all this plethora of, excuse the word, shitcoins out there, right, that no one's going to want to buy, doesn't mean that people aren't going to want to go and bid the top 50 or top 100 altcoins by market cap. It's just a matter of, and retail is not going to want to explore, oh, there's 20 million coins now, I have to go and study every one. I'm going to go and treat the same due diligence to the coin that just launched on Pump.fund versus an investment in Solana or Sui or whatever. So that's an interesting counterpoint, and I think it kind of does make sense.
Absolutely it does. And yeah, it's like, well, I think to my portfolio, because I've been looking at some of the alts that I hold and just like, oh God, I'm so underwater on some of these. But actually the vast majority of my portfolio is made up of assets, even if you discount Bitcoin. I mean, I'm, almost half of my portfolio is Bitcoin. But even if you discount that, most of it is still in assets that are within the top 20 cryptos by market cap. So, I think for this cycle, yes, it's going to be that much harder to pick out a 1000x that's going to come out of nowhere and pump, because that was easier in the last cycle when there were perhaps fewer coins. But I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a bit last week as well, doesn't it? It's like, what are the ones that you have the most conviction in? And I think, if you're someone who's got, your highest conviction is in an altcoin with a sort of sub $5 million market cap, then you're either extremely optimistic or you need to rethink your conviction, because I think that some of the winners are already obvious in terms of market caps and things like that. So I think that's something to bear in mind. As we've always said, like altcoins, especially low caps, there is a space for them in any portfolio, because obviously that is how you turn a very small amount of money into a very large amount of money. But you would have to be extremely lucky to strike a winner on on even one or two. So that's why it's important to go for higher market cap ones as well, more established ones.
Some positivity on the altcoin season. There will be an alt season, guys. It won't be what we expected in the past, but there will be a perfect opportunity to get some really strong, good players on the altcoin space. And speaking of which, if you are thinking about picking up some altcoins, well, I couldn't think of a better place to do that than Binance. So shout out to our brand partner, Binance. We've got a deal going on there where you can get, signing up with the link below, you can get an exclusive 20% trading fee discount for life and a $600 bonus. And once you've your crypto, your altcoin, you'll want to secure it on one of the best hardware wallets out there, Ledger. And they've also got a giveaway of $10 in Bitcoin in a redeemable card that you can get after you've bought your device. The Ledger Flex and Stacks, we've got a few of these already. They're great products. And Guy, last week we met the CTO and CXO of Ledger, right?
Yeah, really smart. That was a great conversation. That's one of those ones you just like, I could happily sit here all evening. That was on Thursday, so I had to go off and do NFA. But yeah, we had a really good chat with those guys. They are working on a lot of interesting stuff there at Ledger. So, and especially stuff around, making crypto's UX, making it easier for people to interact with crypto in a safe way. So, I've been banging that drum for a long time that's so important. So, it's good things coming from them.
Keep an eye out for any announcements, because they're going to be at the conference circuit. So there'll be a lot of exciting announcements coming from Ledger, guys.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Time for the top gainers, guys.
Okay. This is an interesting one. Some interesting top gainers. So this is the top performing altcoins from the top 100 from last week. First up, Bitensor. I can't recall if Tower has figured in the top gainers list.
Not for some time.
Doing this. So Nick, are you ready to hear why Tau has had such a good week?
I'm dying to hear, Guy.
I know you are. I know you are. This is because this is because the dynamic TAO proposal recently passed. What is dynamic TAO? I hear you. As you can imagine, with all things potential, this is extremely complex. So I've been trying to make sense of this for a while. Dynamic TAO, as I understand, eliminates centralized root validators. They were the ones that used to judge the value of subnets.
Thank God. I mean, because those root validators, centralized root validators, I mean, it's been the biggest problem plaguing the crypto for a long time. And how can you adequately judge these subnet values, guy? I mean, that's like the golden,
absolutely,
golden key.
That is the golden snitch of crypto. So yeah, instead, subnet value is going to be determined by the amount of TAO staked in their liquidity pools by users. There are 50 plus Bitensor subnets, and now each one has its own DTAO token paired with TAO in decentralized liquidity pools. Obviously, there is a heck of a lot more to it than that, but it seems like it had a community vote for this, and that has energized the Bitensor bulls. One of whom is Barry Silbert. Do you remember Barry Silbert?
Silbert, yes. The name rings a bell, of course. Yes, Barry is a TAO bro. That's crazy, man. What a world we live in.
Absolutely. So Barry Silbert of Digital Currency Group, once arguably one of crypto's main characters. Obviously, Digital Currency Group did not have a very good 2024. So has sort of, you don't hear very much. I mean, you never used to hear that much from Barry anyway, but he is bullish. long TAO. Okay, what's next, Nick?
Next is Litecoin LTC. Now, this is interesting. Guy, do you know that Canary Capital has filed for a ETF, and that Litecoin, the odds of a Litecoin ETF, according to Polymarket, are at least 81% to be approved this year? And I've heard the Bloomberg ETF guys as well say that the most likely ETF to be approved will be Litecoin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are front running that by buying LTC over the last week or so. And
the Litecoin intern has upped the Twitter game considerably.
Yes, Litecoin's Twitter page has gone from something
savage. There we go, man.
Oh dear.
This intern is single-handedly controlling. He's single-handedly developing the roadmap for Litecoin on a tweet-by-tweet basis. Beautiful.
Do you think it's like Charlie Lee's young cousin or something like that? It's just taken over. Taylor Swift did not have a good Super Bowl, did she? No. Okay, so that is Litecoin still doing it after all these years. Good to see a granddaddy outperforming. Next up, you won't be at all surprised to hear that another week as a top performer. This is Mantra and Om. I think now I'm pretty sure this is Mantra's third consecutive appearance in the top gainers. I think that's a record. A few months ago, you remember when Sui was having that absolute run? I think Sui figured 3 times on the spin.
Yeah.
But Mantra has, if not beaten that record, then certainly equaled it.
To be fair, though, Guy, it is quite misleading to the extent that many people would think about, it's been featured 3 times in the gains of the week. It must mean it's been up and to the right. But no, it's because crypto is chopped so much. It's like rally, fall, rally, fall. So it's always like Mantra's the one that high beta play on the altcoin space. So it's like always rallying a bit more because it's obviously in that RWA space, right? And people are very bullish on RWA. Yeah. Speaking of which, we've got a video on RWAs coming out in 2 days. So if you're not subscribed yet, do so right now.
Yeah, I think we talk about Mantra in that, don't we? So Mantra, perhaps not so much a top gainer as one of the most resilient coins out there this week. Now, Nick, are you sitting down? Because there's okay, you are sitting down. Next on our top gainers list now just is EOS.
But guy, this makes sense, bro, because didn't you hear about the EOS conference going on right now in Thailand? All 3 EOS was there.
Oh wow! Okay, so they've put their
all 3 of them were there, man. Yeah, exactly. Okay. They're having a coffee discussing the future roadmap of EOS.
Wow. Well, they say every dog has its day, and never was a truer word spoken in EOS's case. Good. It just won't die, will it?
Speaking of every dog has its day. Cosmos, man, Atom. Wow, that's surprising, eh? That's a top gainer.
Yeah. Atom itself has severely underperformed, but it is worth pointing out, Nick, that some of the coolest projects in crypto are in the Cosmos ecosystem. Now, this doesn't necessarily reflect any real value back to Atom, and this is one of Cosmos's big problems. But Mantra, that we've just talked about, is a Cosmos project. Obviously, over the last week or so, we had the launch of Berachain, which is Cosmos as well. So there is like lots of cool and interesting stuff happening in that ecosystem. But yeah, I must say I was a little bit surprised to see Atom outperform. But yeah, there we go. Good news for Atom holders.
There we go. Right, time for tweets for the week. Tweets of the week.
Yes.
Great. So first tweet, guys. This is from This is from Tom Solport Tom. Boys, I finally made wife changing money. My wife found out how much we are down and left me.
Wife changing meaning, yeah, wife changing you.
And here we go. Yeah, wife changing money. Next tweet, guys. This is hilarious. Okay. So this is basically Unusual Ways is basically saying this guy, Michael Collins, is a U.S. representative guy in the U.S. House, I think. And he just disclosed buying 15K in ETH and 30K in virtual. And he sold virtual 9 days later after being down an estimated 38%. And of course, he bought numerous other crypto over the last 3 months. And Representative Mike Collins himself on his government official Twitter account responds, "In the trenches." One of us.
Extraordinary.
Crazy, yeah?
I love how I love the idea of this guy just in his office in Congress, just scrolling through crypto Twitter and just absorbing the jargon.
I don't care about this bill, man. I can't sit into this hearing. Who gives a shit about this shit? I'm just going to go and shit post on Twitter. It's my DJ friends in the trenches. Jump in the Discord server, guys. What are we aping today? What's the CA? Send the CA. God,
good for
man,
him. Like, you know, this would have been hard to imagine just a couple of years ago. Someone on Capitol Hill speaking our language. So yeah, another positive.
We live in a simulation, man. We live in a simulation. And speaking of living in simulations, the next tweet. I don't know if this happened today, guys. So the president of the Central African Republic launched a meme coin on Pump.fund, Solana, to support national digital development. I mean, I thought we saw it all, man. You know.
Yeah.
I basically said to myself, I always knew that cryptocurrency would change the trajectory of Africa and help monetary systems there. I didn't necessarily expect a president to launch a meme coin on Pump.fund, but this is the reality we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting, it's Central African Republic, because do you remember they were sort of the second nation after El Salvador to sort of adopt Bitcoin, and they sort of adopted it as it wasn't quite the same sort of level as El Salvador did, but they sort of got in on that, and then I think they kind of dropped it and stuff. But,
to be fair, I have heard, I mean, a bit of a tangent, but I've spoken to people who have been involved to some degree with officials at the CAR, and they were looking at ways of potentially tokenizing minerals or Bitcoin strategic reserve. So it seems that they shelved all those plans, if this is true, because apparently there's rumors it could be deepfake, which, to be honest, the fact that we think it's more likely to be true than not based on a deepfake shows the state of we're in, the cycle we're in. But yeah, apparently they'd been thinking about it before, and he thought, well, why would you go and tokenize assets? Just go and launch a meme.
Mad. Well, predictably enough, it is down bad. Last time I looked. Anyhow, so this one from Kobe. Now Kobe is obviously crypto OG. He's also recently set up this Echo.xyz, which is a sort of I guess a sort of crowdfunding platform for crypto projects. You know, gives sort of
kind of like a syndicate out deals. Basically, go and get KYC'd and verified in these vaults that you can participate in these deals. And then lots of projects have been using them. But the TLDR of what he's saying here is basically that the token teams are basically, and it shows you guys there's not just nefarious activity taking place among meme coin degens on Twitter, but also with projects. If you buy $5 million of our token, we will send you another $5 million. So you get a 50% discount overall on the buy as long as you hold for N days. So basically trying to create artificial demand at TGE, which inflates the price for the future foundation sales, which could come basically for liquidity for the founders and the team. So it's like low float, high FDV on steroids. Sad state of affairs. Really sad to see.
Yeah. I kind of feel that this is part of Gary Gensler's legacy in a way. Like, this is market manipulation, isn't it? And this is the state of the market. This is what happens when you don't get clear regulations, when you don't get, you know, a set of regulations, a set of rules that you can operate in. This is the kind of behavior that flourishes. And yeah, it's the sooner we see the back of this kind of crap, the better. But yeah,
next week, guys.
There we are.
And then from a friend of the channel, Ben Cowan.
Yeah. Ben has obviously been talking about Bitcoin dominance a lot, and he has been proven right. But yeah, the reason why sentiment in the cryptoverse is so bad, despite Bitcoin being around 100K, is because the entire space has turned into influencers grifting meme coins and acting like they are the next Warren Buffett. True that, Ben.
The next Warren Buffett shilling their buffet of shitcoins.
Yes,
indeed. There we go.
Yes, indeed.
Coins to watch, guys. Coins to watch. This week, We've only got one coin to watch, and this is Jupiter. Now, this is interesting because Jupiter's had quite a crazy run over the past 2 weeks. I mean, maybe not so much in price, but in terms of developments and also like growth of the ecosystem, because they purchased Moonshot, another project as well. The fees were insane. They went through Jupiter and then Castonville, sorry. And, you know, now they've got a lot of announcements coming this week, and people are excited. Also updates on the buyback, etc. And potentially price accretive. So keep an eye on that. And we've also got a Jupiter review coming this week on the main channel. So keep your eyes peeled for that, guys. So it's just Jupiter. And then some unlocks to watch as well. Now, this one's really interesting, guy, because today is an unlock of Berachain. 12% of circulating supply in an airdrop. Now, in case you guys haven't seen the price of Bera since its launch last week, which was one of the most anticipated launches of this year, the biggest hyped launch. And I think that they've been selling prior to this. Now, this is a part of the airdrop campaign. But yeah, I mean, guy, there was a lot of negative sentiment around this project launch when they launched last week, right?
A lot of negative sentiment. And I feel it's a bit unfair in many ways, because obviously, you know, the Berachain launch was talked about for a long time. They obviously wanted to try and launch when the market was doing well. Time was against them in that regard. And I think because the market was so bad, you know, that kind of amplified a lot of the hate that people were feeling towards it. I mean, okay, you know, there are some valid criticisms. A lot of people saying, oh, great, another L1, you know, another high performant L1 or whatever. It's like, yeah, you know, there certainly, you know, there are reasons to question it, but I feel it was a little bit unlucky. But having a big unlock like that so soon after the airdrop, which predictably, of course, the airdrop itself predictably pissed a lot of people off, as these things tend to do. So yeah, it's not great for Bera at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it's market sentiment in general, right? They're just seen as like the easy target because they're a launch right now, and they were shorted the hell out of them. And there were some other takes that I'd seen, but you know, it's just a difficult market environment to launch right now, which doesn't bode well for the other big ones to watch out for. Monad and Mega ETH, they're probably watching that. They're probably thinking, don't want to get beat right now. But
Q2,
huh?
Q2.
Q2
maybe launching Q2, push back to Q2, maybe Q3.
Let's push that back. Keep going towards the trenches. Or next cycle, if you don't see, if indeed there is no season. There's also another quickly. There's another unlock for the sandbox, Sand. Now this one's also quite sizable. Just pull up the unlocks there, guys, again. This one's, but it's about 8%, but it's also going to, it's not an airdrop component, it's going to advisors and team as well, potentially some sell pressure. So that's that metaverse one from last cycle, guys. So it's one of those other ones which was doing pretty well last in this run up in December, actually, I think, in the old cycle run up. So yeah. Dates of the diary. 2 dates of the diary, as we mentioned them before. We have got on the February the 12th, which is on Wednesday, CPI, of course. This is obviously how we'll drive Fed policy. 2.9% was the previous. They're expecting 2.8%, which is potentially a cooling. I've seen some commentary that we could potentially see a cooling, which obviously would be good because that means that more likely than not, the Fed is going to want to cut. So that's an important day to note. And then on day after that, we've got the PPI. So, the producer price inflation, 0.2 versus what we get, 0.3 expected.
Lots of delicious inflation data for those people who like that sort of thing. Okay, let's have a look through. What people have been saying in the comments. People pretty resilient, actually. I was expecting slightly worse sentiment across the board today, but our commenters have not let us down. Poor old Jean Francis is still stuck in bloody Swindon. So look, folks, you may be down bad, but some people are stuck in Swindon. Kian Lynham makes a very good point. Patience is the most valuable asset in crypto. I think you might be right there, Kian. It's as Nick and I were saying earlier, we have been in this situation before. Post-halving years, you do historically get this sort of price action. So I think if you're, I think what a lot of people need to do is just don't try and play this. Just sit tight. As we've mentioned so many bullish things on this stream today in terms of bullish developments that are either kind of happening now or that are in the pipeline for the whole crypto industry. So the best thing about patience is like knowledge. It's free. You just have to work on it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very zen, Nick. Very zen. Want Cookies also makes a good point. This is something that Ben Cowan too has been talking about. I think we need to see QE first before alts run. Yeah. Definitely. Exactly. This is something that gets forgotten a lot. We are still in a high rates environment. Yes, we've had, the Fed has taken a few basis points off that interest rate, but that we're still a lot higher than we were in the last bull run. So we also got some QT going on, and the 10-year is still pretty high. So once the QT first needs to stop, and then, we need to see the 10-year coming down and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, another good point here from BK. Altseason is here, just changing narratives. I think you were mentioning this earlier, talking about this earlier, weren't you, Nick? Rotation through narratives, exactly. Although, and that's what we'll probably see going forward, right? Especially if we do get the rotation into alts in general, it will be rotating through different narratives, and that's the point around don't hodl for life. You need to obviously think about alts strategically, what's making sense right now and what's good. Absolutely. Just a couple of others. Random Dude 45, who has a very interesting thumbnail pick. Interesting take. Solana ruined the market. A magic poop cannon of meme coins that rug pull people every other minute. Yes and no. I mean, I kind of think it's perhaps a little bit much. I say this as a soul holder, so perhaps it's a little bit much to put the blame on Solana itself. I mean, pump.fun, if you like. Pump.fun, yeah. Yeah, but it's like an app. You can't blame the app. I mean, you can't blame the chain for the app, right? So yeah. Mr. Bill is unhappy because Guy, your cousin stole my gear. Look, that's between you and Barry, Mr. Bill. I'm not going to intervene on that. What gear is he talking about? Well, I don't know. It's probably not fit to discuss on a family stream like today's is. What gear are you speaking about, Guy? Look, like I say, I don't want to get involved. Where Barry's concerned, I don't like to get involved. That guy's off unhinged. And Stroman asks, is that a hotel room? Is he fleeing the country? Yes, it is a hotel room. No, I'm not fleeing the country. Mrs. Guy and I are just having a few days away. But as I say, as I will explain at the top of next week's stream, even when you think you might have got away from crypto doesn't get away from you. So tune in next week. So you guys definitely need to tune in next week to hear that. It was I'll give you the crazy full rundown. Okay, that is about it for this week. So Nick, good to see you. I hope you're keeping everyone back at Dubai HQ. All happy. Everyone's missing you, Guy, and enjoy your time, whatever time you have left. Try not to look at the charts. Try to spend some quality time. Thank you. Yeah. Whatever time I have left, that almost sounds like I'm coming to the end of my life, doesn't it? No. Thank you very much. Good to see you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Tune in again next week, and we will see you soon. Cheers, guys. I'm now living in a phantom by the river. This trip is deeper than next thing that cheese. Yeah, I have more blood to be donated. Give me the king size fries, Nick. I can't afford the large. Don't worry, be happy, folks. It's
Good stream, guys, eh? You sure you stopped this time, though? Because like last time when we ended the stream, you left last time. It's supposed to end when the actual credits are finished, right? So you sure you stopped? It's a good stream, right? Done well, yeah. What's Guy doing? Yeah.